You won't believe what courage really looks like. It doesn't always come wrapped in a suit or tied up in a clean speech. Sometimes it's a woman in a stained cleaning uniform racing through marble halls with a little girl convulsing in her arms. This is Regina's story. One moment, one choice that changed everything. It was a Sunday when it all happened. Late morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the Harrison mansion, turning dust motes into golden dancers. Regina Santos had just finished polishing the marble floors in the grand foyer. Her uniform, though clean, bore faint smudges of dust and the fading scent of industrial cleaner. She breathed in the palace-sized silence, thinking of her own two children across town, tucked in at their grandmother's. She always worked Sundays, so they'd eat something warm. Then came the scream, the kind nothing in you can ignore. Isabella, the Harrisons' golden-haired 5-year-old, was sprawled on the Italian marble, her small body shaking violently. Blood trickled from her mouth. Regina dropped her mop, heart roaring. Someone, one of the other servants, yelled, "Call an ambulance!" But the house felt impossibly empty, every second stretching out. Isabella was turning purple. Convulsions racked her chest. Without thinking, Regina picked her up, lifting her limp weight, her tiny hands falling slack. "Call an ambulance, now!" Regina shouted, her voice echoing down corridors carved out for wealth. But there was no time. Isabella's eyelids fluttered. An inhale, a searing gasp. The girl was slipping. Regina, though she'd only been at the Harrison mansion 3 months, knew what to do. Years ago, her own boy, Kevin, had asthma. She'd learned first aid in that furnace of fear when he'd nearly died. Thought Regina could lose him in a third hospital after waiting rooms became death holds. In that moment of panic, she had held his wheezing body, shouted for help, prayed someone would listen. She had learned what mattered. Quick hands, clarity, courage. Leaving behind shouts from unexpected witnesses, Regina ran to the back of the property, a rusted pickup, her only hope. She cradled Isabella, drove through crumbling driveways, sweat and blood mingling on her uniform, windows blurring tears and panic. She didn't wait for authorization. She didn't care about protocols. A child's life was in her arms. At the hospital, chaos swallowed Regina. Doctors dashed, nurses glancing at her uniform, at the blood, at the frantic truth in her eyes. "Seizure," she screamed. 3 minutes, then she lost consciousness, then she came back. Words stumbled over one another as she painted a picture they couldn't ignore. Isabella's tiny body, limp, then flickering back to life. Regina's hands stained, spirit stretched, but refusing to snap. When Isabella was wheeled into the pediatric ICU, stable at last, Regina curled into a waiting room chair. Her body trembled. Not from fear, she told herself, but from grief. Inside, memories knifed through her. Kevin's face, the hospital that said no, the beeping machines too late, the boy she couldn't save. And now, this child she had saved, someone else's daughter. Her courage felt heavy, mixed with a weight of what had been lost. That's when David Harrison, the CEO of the region's largest construction empire, burst into the hospital hallway. He was a man used to power. $200 million, luxury residences, contracts with hospitals. But seeing Regina there, voice hoarse, uniform soaked, she looked nothing like a hero in his world. Heroism wasn't something he encountered often. Yet here she was. When he saw Isabella lying pale, then alive, he wept. "You saved my daughter," he said. The suit he wore was rumpled, eyes red. "How can we ever thank you?" Regina looked at him. All she wanted was one thing. Is she going to be okay, Mr. Harrison? And that was enough for now. What David didn't know, until later, was that Regina had lost more than just sleep these past nights. Kevin, 7 years old, had died in a public hospital because Regina had been ignored. Not for her skills, but because the system was built to ignore people like her. Because she was poor, black, and audacious enough to question when children of privilege always came first. She worked in hospitals, got nursing degrees, specialized in pediatrics, skills, certifications, but repeatedly fired. Behavioral problems, they called it, because she spoke up, because she said discrimination was wrong. In rooms she wasn't supposed to enter, for patients, nobody applauded. 2 days after Isabella's crisis, David's wife, Victoria, sashayed through the front gate of the mansion. European trip over, hair done, clothes impeccable. She was beauty and ice, aristocracy in human form. Dinner was tense and polished. Victoria, poised and contemptuous, asked her husband, "How can you trust that maid? Leave our daughter's safety in her hands?" David opened his mouth, thought to reply, but faltered, because gratitude had its limits in high society. Because of the whispers Victoria had heard, of maids' eyes, of connections, of ambition. Regina was nearby, cleaning the adjacent room. Each word Victoria spoke pierced through wallpaper and crystal chandeliers. "These people always have ulterior motives," Victoria said. "Have you seen how she looks at our things? So, forward?" Regina's skin stung at each syllable. David tried to defend her. He licked his lips, looked away. Not enough. Regina looked at him. Not angry, not begging, but steady. She understood something he didn't yet see. Respect is earned, but dignity is preserved even when it is denied. Regina carried a secret no one suspected. While she scrubbed floors and emptied trash, she carried evidence, certificates, medical records, protest letters. She had photographic proof, internal hospital logs showing how donor hospital children got one kind of equipment, public hospital kids got another, inferior, defective. Contracts from Harrison Construction to public hospitals, promising modern devices but delivering cheap replacements. And worst, criminal memos instructing that hospitals serving non-priority populations be given the lower-grade versions, that lives made invisible be allowed to remain so. She didn't speak. She observed. She documented. Each evening, she sat under dim light, scrolling through hospital reports, clipping articles, capturing every insult Victoria dropped, every remark she overheard about people like her, where she belongs, on her phone recorder. David thought she was quiet, but her silence was working, building towards something greater than irony. Silence plus evidence equals revolution. An ally emerged. Dr. Marcus Williams was the pediatrician who had treated Isabella. Black, compassionate, furious beneath the lab coat. He saw Regina at the hospital and noticed how she was being treated afterwards. Praise in public, cold disdain in private. They met in a cafe with cracked tiles, cheap coffee. Marcus slid across a folder. "Regina, I know who you are," he said. Inside were records, dozens of children who died or were injured because medical equipment failed, equipment installed by Harrison Construction, contracts overcharging, corners cut, names, dates. Regina's heart pounded looking at the pages, the faces of children she didn't know, but whose stories mirrored Kevin's. Marcus's voice broke. "You realize how many children could have lived if someone like you was there to stand up?" Regina felt a hot wave of grief, but also resolve, because for Kevin, she could do nothing. Now she could do everything. Another ally appeared, James Chun, investigator specializing in medical fraud. He contacted Regina after news of Marcus's folder leaked. They met in a sparsely lit parking lot. Chun handed her a tiny USB drive. "If you can access David Harrison's office computers," he whispered, "we can build a case nobody can ignore. Files, videos, eye-opening." Regina already had some. While cleaning that office, she discovered the security system was always on, passwords unguarded. She copied hours of video, Victoria's racist taunts, David's corporate phone calls about profits over lives, board meetings about treating disposable patients. She found contracts in special projects marked for public hospitals, substandard equipment, but the invoices said premium. Night after night, she stitched this evidence together. Medical records, photographs, audio files, video, contracts, built slide decks, each piece a brick in the dam she was about to burst. She called one presentation, "The Harrison Medical Genocide, How Privilege Kills." She prepared spreadsheets. How many hospitals? How many dead? How much money exchanged? How many defective devices deployed? Regina's demands were never about payment. Not in the way Victoria understood. Regina wanted accountability. She wanted public hospitals to receive the same care as private ones. She wanted change, but she also wanted truth, and she knew truth could burn. She watched the mansion's grand halls from behind cleaning tasks, listening to Victoria scoff at nurses, listening to David talk efficiency with pleasant smiles, hiding profit margins. Each comment became a soundbite, each insult recorded, stored. Exactly 2 weeks after the confrontation at dinner, Regina had everything ready. The FBI, media outlets, civil rights groups, all waiting. A website she built was scheduled to go live in 6 hours, carrying 47 slides, dozens of documents, recordings, security footage, every deceit, every racist insult, every murmur of disposable lives. It wasn't a vengeance project, it was a reckoning. That same morning, in Harrison Construction's boardroom at the Children's Hospital, board members gathered to approve yet another contract. David stood, polished and persuasive. "Efficiency and economy," he said, "so care can reach more children." His voice carried, but beneath it lay all the profit. Regina's heart hammered as she thought, children still dying because someone cornered the margins, replaced alarms with silence, spoiled hope with broken promises. It was 3 p.m. when the dam broke. Cell phones buzzed, computers chimed, headlines exploded across screens. Documented medical fraud, hundreds of infant deaths linked to Harrison Construction. Photos of contracts, emails, videos, Victoria making racist comments caught in the mansion's own cameras, David's memo ordering delivery of disposable units to non-priority hospitals. Regina watched it all from outside, watering the plants, or pretending to. In her mind, she saw Kevin's face, every child who was failed. She saw justice turning, the world shifting. Reporters swarmed. Cameras pointed. The FBI, with search warrants in hand, descended on Harrison Construction headquarters. Agents carried boxes of documents, computers, hard drives. Elizabeth called clients. David tried to salvage impressions, but it was too late. Victoria's social circle recoiled. The clubs, the charities, the schools. They severed connections. David's leadership cracked. Inside courtrooms, in newsrooms, in devastated public hospitals. People said, finally. Regina, once invisible beneath layers of dust, beneath ridicule, beneath the assumptions of what she could or could not do, now stood tall. At a press conference in the Children's Hospital, Dr. Marcus Williams spoke beside a wall of photos, portraits of children, names typed in bold. He held up Kevin's picture. Regina stood beside him, no fanfare, no pretenses. Her voice calm. My son Kevin died at age 7 because defective equipment was sold as top quality. For 3 years, I cleaned the mansion of the people who profited from his death. Today, the truth comes out. Cameras clicked, microphones caught every word. Tears, yes, but not regret, not shame. Accountability blossomed. David Harrison's empire crumbled. Contracts cancelled, stock values plunged. His removal from boardrooms, ruby shine images of philanthropy pulped under the weight of revealed lies. Victoria's reputation shredded. Videos of her slurs and hatred spread online. Her appointments dropped. Isabella, the child Regina had saved, heard whispers at school. But some things do change. She started drawing pictures for Regina, writing notes. A child's innocence in the wreckage of privilege. Regina didn't want money. She wanted justice. Soon her work led to new laws. The Department of Health hired her. She was appointed special advisor for equipment protocol reform. The Kevin Santos Protocol was adopted in public hospitals across multiple states. Critical failures now flagged. Public hospital equipment matched private hospital quality. When the first child died under the new system, outrage followed, but the protocols held. Lives were saved. Regina's pain shaped purpose. Months later, Regina walked through halls of renovated children's hospitals. She founded the Kevin Santos Institute for Medical Justice. Families who had lost children in avoidable tragedies found support. Doctors, politicians listened. Boards that once ignored her now studied her work. She spoke often. True wealth isn't in bank accounts. It's in the courage to say that all lives matter. And crowds, thousands, listened. In time, David Harrison went to prison. Federal charges of fraud, corruption, manslaughter. His companies dissolved, his name legal files. Victoria, once aristocratic queen, reduced to whispers in department stores and echoing chambers of shame. Social isolation, loss of everything built on lies. One day, Regina stood in an auditorium before doctors, families, reporters. Pictures of Kevin at 7. Isabella smiling. Regina's voice rose. We must prove that for every child born poor, born in the wrong zip code, born without privilege, their life is not disposable. If you see injustice, speak. If you have evidence, use it. Never let loss be a silence. She paused. Applause roared. Kevin's name now engraved at entrances of 17 hospitals. The empire built by Harrison now exists only in court archives. Isabella in her drawings, sending love. Regina walking out of the Harrison mansion one last time, still in her uniform. Dignity restored. She didn't want their money. She didn't want revenge. She wanted something greater. That no child dies like Kevin again. That every child, regardless of privilege, matter. Regina Santos was once underestimated, but she cleaned more than marble. She cleaned corruption. She washed away privilege built on profit, and in doing so, she saved not just one child, but thousands of futures, waiting for someone brave enough to fight.